Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another BRAP rant, a morning rant, and I got with me Game Logic. What's up, Logic?
Hey man, I'm very impressed by how on your toes you are.
Hey, look, man. Look. When you have like when you basically have a farm, you got to be on your toes, man.
That for the chat, that comment is because BRAP didn't know I was going to be here, so I was surprised he just came in and just rolled with punches.
Yeah, I mean exactly. I wasn't expecting you to be here, and then I stepped away. And I rolled credits. I'm like, or not roll credits, but I rolled the intro, and I'm like, oh, Logic's here. So, yeah, man. No, it's great to have you, man. Because I did. So basically, what happened this morning is I pinged Logic and said, hey, look, I'm going to do a BRAP rant. Can you, and I think you said, oh, I can't make it. And so, yeah, but no, happy you could make it, man, because I do want to talk about a couple things here. Really, like the bigotry in the gaming community is just terrible, man. And it is, I don't know, was it Wednesday? When was this? Thursday? Oh, geez, I can't remember now. It was I think it was Thursday. Maybe it was Thursday. But there was a lot of if you could see the thumbnail here, for those who saw the thumbnail, the kiss, as I'm calling it, the kiss, that really got people upset and really exposed a lot of people's homophobia and just bigotry and just bad stuff. And oh no, it's Alex did a video about this on Friday, and some of the comments in his comment section, like people calling him a lib and saying, I'm gonna, like, oh, I don't have a problem with with homosexuals, but I don't want them forcing stuff like this. I'm like, no, you have a problem. You do have a problem, because you're talking about it, because you're saying things like, using words like forced. Those are usually telltale signs that, yeah, there's something else there. But anyhow, and then I want to talk about some commentary, some reporting that was discussed on Jeff Grubb's Game Show, where he talked about the performance of Hi-Fi Rush, but also leadership's thoughts on the performance of the Xbox console. So we'll talk about that. What's up, Capono? Capono says I'm still on my second cup of coffee. I'm on my first cup of Dunkin' Donuts. So, but Game Logic, let's get into the what I'm calling the kiss, because, and unfortunately this was actually spoiled. That scene was spoiled. Yeah, go ahead.
Should we call it Kissgate?
I mean, maybe. I guess we could call it Kissgate, right? I mean, but and you know what really kind of the other part about that, some of the things that I was seeing regarding the kiss is that I mean, like, that scene was spoiled for me. Like, I just started playing Burning Shores DLC. I had no idea that was going to happen. So that part of the story was spoiled. But look, it was, at least on, and I'm going to say this, on my timeline, majority of the people that were speaking out or speaking up about are really just exposing their own bigotry. Where people, and again, this is on my timeline. I don't, maybe you saw something different. I had a couple of people, the old energy keepers, Game Logic, which you tweeted about, oh, did you keep the same energy when so-and-so said it? But, what's her, Pacini, whatever the hell her name is, or his name is. It's clearly a catfish account. This is that was the first tweet that I saw. And this has actually been since removed and passed off as, oh, I took it down because I don't want to provide any spoilers to the game. No, that's bullshit. But the tweet from Pacini was, every day I feel happier that I choose the console brand that prioritizes diversity of gameplay rather than other things in their video game franchises. And so Pacini puts the types of gameplay that Xbox has, survival, strategy, racing, and then proceeds to show scenes of same-sex couples kissing that are tied to Sony games. And then it just got progressively worse after that. Now, I did see one PlayStation, somebody with a PlayStation Twitter account, or seems to be a PlayStation fan, if you will, also speak out about or speak about the kiss and what they felt was a forced type thing by Sony. And what we talk about, I see 4070. Did you buy a 4070 Ti, Logic?
No. Capona mentioned that that the 4070 dropped $100 because there was a great uptake by PC gamers, but and I question whether or not that was really just to make pricing room for the 4070 Ti.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but a lot of the commentary that I was seeing, Logic, and again, I did see one from a PlayStation individual, which I thought was disgusting as well. But a lot of it I was seeing from the Xbox community, and but again, I'm going to say this again. I mean, it could be because of my timeline. Maybe there was others on the PlayStation, but regardless of the platform, it was still out there. It was going around, and what's unfortunate is this, that people can't. I had one individual who, when I retweeted or when I screenshot what Pacini had said and said, look, this is just disgusting. This is this bigotry or whatever. This is uncalled for. Their immediate reaction was to say, well, did you call out so-and-so for this? Like their first reaction is to console war, instead of just being like a decent human being and be like, hey, you know what, BRAP? Yeah, you're right. That's bullshit. There's no place for that. There's no place for that. Their first inclination was to run, and like you tweeted yesterday, the whole same energy thing, as opposed to just being a decent human being and be like, no, you know what? This is disgusting. Those tweets don't hold. That tweet is uncalled for. It just went to console wars. And then people were like, well, BRAP, you don't keep the same energy. And I'm like, really? Like, this is what we're doing over homophobic commentary? Like, this is, we're console warring? It's to me, for me, Logic, that was a new low for the gaming community. That was a new low. I didn't think it could get any, and I didn't think it could be any worse. But that's a new low to to get that upset, and to, instead of just being a decent human being, to see the amount of console warring instead of being like, hey, you know what, bigotry, homophobia, that stuff there's no place for that in the gaming community, and this idea that, where they're forcing, they're forcing LGBT characters in video games, like people, like art is a reflection of life, and in life today, in the world today, we have same-sex couples. They're in relationships. And I don't understand why people have an issue with representation of LGBT members of the LGBT community in video games. I don't understand why that's an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. These are people. These are people in our community. These are our brothers and sisters. These are humans. I don't understand why, and if you need to have, I guess, quote unquote, heterosexual couples or relationships in your video games, then go play those fucking video games. And boycott Activision? No, there is no agenda. This is called representation of people in the community.
Well, and I had a different perspective on that. I mean, I think it's a different perspective that winds up with us being in the same place. So boycott Activision says, why can't we just admit there's a rainbow agenda? You don't have to hate rainbow to admit it. We've been pretending for a decade now. Boycott Activision. I think the problem I have with that perspective is it is attributing something to that community that is no different than any other community. There's a Democratic agenda. There's a Republican agenda. There's a gun owner agenda. There are PlayStation fan agendas and Xbox fan agendas. There are agendas all over the place. However, a lot of those agendas are just oriented around people wanting to live their lives without fear of retribution, and to be inclusive. So another thing I'm going to tie into this to get back to that is the problem with Piccinini's comment was, and the problem that I have, and what I've been talking about on this podcast a lot recently, is about frauds, fake gamers. Games are art. If you don't understand that, get over it. They are art. They are a form of entertainment. The very core of art is for artists to speak out on their vision, and has been used since ancient times to speak out on social issues that they would otherwise be criminalized and vilified for were it not expressed in art. Art is used for people to convey feelings, compassions, things that they have and things that they want to speak about. I'm Black. People flipped out because Sam Wilson became Captain America, which, first of all, they shouldn't have flipped out for if they were actual comic book fans, because that happened in the comic books way before it ever showed up on the movie screen. So again, you do things like that and you prove that you're a fake or fraudulent fan. So my problem is somebody who actually appreciates art, which means you appreciate variations in vision, you appreciate variations and differences in things being presented. I love going to see movies where other cultures are represented that are not mine, because then those are things that I don't know about, and I get exposed to them and I learn from them. So somebody who tweets out something like that is the definition of the thing that I've been saying, is they are not a gamer. They are not an appreciator of art. They don't understand the entertainment medium. And then what gets surfaced in that, right, as BRAP is saying, is the bigotry. This ties in right in with the same thing of the people who say, I don't want politics in games. Artistic vision, representation of the real world, politics happen in the real world. How are you going to make a game about the military who is under the chain of command of the political framework and then entirely not include any of that content in there? That makes no sense to me. And it's absolutely fine for somebody to represent issues that are in their mind in an artistic medium, whether those be liberal, conservative, whatever.
I mean, it happens in movies, music, literature.
Right.
Go ahead.
So in my opinion, a lot of this is just things that people whose aperture is not sufficiently open, having a problem with the way art is rendered. And in my opinion, if that is your problem, if you have difficulty consuming that, then you shouldn't be consuming the artistic medium, and you should get out of gaming, because I don't know who would be interested in having you here. Yeah,
no, I don't disagree with that. But what's wild is that what's really funny is, to me, is people saying things like, well, I don't have anything against the LGBT community, but those things are forced. Like, no, you know, I don't want to see that. No, clearly you have an issue, because you don't raise the issue when it's heterosexual couples kissing in a video game. You know, you don't have that issue. You don't bring it up then. You're only bringing up the issue because there's two same-sex couples sharing an intimate moment together on screen. And now you have an issue. That was the other thing, too, that I was seeing. You know? It's like I'm not a racist. But, you know, but no, I mean, Logic, you're right. Like, and I said, art is a representation, imitation of life. And these people, the people that are that are quote unquote, these people that are quote unquote gamers, like you say, Logic, that are frauds, I think you're referring to them as. You're right, don't understand the medium. They just don't.
But you got a super chat, by the way.
Yeah, I'll get here in a sec. Froggy T, right? Look, man, I don't know. Like this whole you generally don't keep the same energy though. Like look, man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. If you don't, if you don't like, what we discuss here on the show, you don't have to listen. No one's forcing you to. I'm here to talk about video games. If I'm not propping up your favorite console choice, there's plenty of whatever podcast you can go listen to. Donnell Brown with the $2 super chat says, "Damn dudes, it's early for this. It's 6:36 in the morning. I guess Donnell's out in the East Coast or the West Coast." Donnell Brown again with the $5 super chat says, "Y'all need to do more of this. I love to listen to you all. Love it when y'all talking crap to people in chat." Thank you, Donnell Brown.
And Apex Predator says, "Yeah, but nowadays you can tell when it's forced and when." I guess he means when it's not. And we play games to escape the real world, and warring games never happen in real life. It's fake. So Apex, my two perspectives on that. And again, I'm just offering my perspective. I don't care if you think I'm right or wrong, and I'm not trying to say you're right or wrong. You're entitled to your own opinion and go live your life, and do it without political intervention. Whatever. Two things on that. The topic of when it's forced. So, and I have a different perspective on this, both for people who are minorities and people who are not. So again, I'll just talk about the black issue, right? People, white friends of mine, right, have expressed the opinion. I hate when they turn a character black just to force an issue. So my perception, my feeling is this: is social change doesn't happen unless things are forced. And if that means that there has to be a couple instances of your precious comic book character or video game character or some other creative element that you don't own and don't have any intellectual provenance over, and that creator wants to do that, then that's their choice. As I talked about last week, gamers get the opportunity to express what they want, creators build what they want, and then gamers as consumers get to choose whether or not to buy it or not. If it's a problem for you, you shouldn't consume the medium. Now, what that means in today's age is that may mean that you have to become more aware of what's in content. You may have to read reviews at a detailed level instead of just looking at the score. You may have to do research on a title before you step into it. That's your responsibility. If there's stuff in games that bothers you, that's not the creator's job to put spoilers out of what's in the game. That's for you to go figure out because you're the individual consumer. And then the topic that, we play games to escape the real world. I commiserate with that, and I understand it. Again, I fall back on, it's an artistic medium. There's stuff that gets put out that doesn't have that in it, and maybe that's the stuff for you. I think one thing to understand is that, for me as a youth, my real world was going down to the bus stop and having other kids call me the N-word. My real world was going to elementary school with the rich racist kids who lived out on the island and being told that I was less than. My real world was my 10th grade biology teacher telling me I wasn't smart enough to get into the college that I wanted to. That was my real world. So if there's a video game that has a black character as the protagonist who is smart and rich and doesn't just call racist names and get driven down into the dirt, then that's an opportunity for me to escape my real world. And I think that's a perspective that maybe other people need to understand.
That's a great point, Logic. And Apex Precious, you don't get why people are complaining about it. Oh, no, I think I do, Apex. Look, I'm not going to be. Look, I don't have tolerance for bigotry. I just don't. I grew up in a primarily at the time one of the wealthiest counties in the United States. It's probably outside of the top 10 now, but I think it was number 1 at the time. I was the only Latino in my neighborhood. And much like you, Logic, I was called every name in the book: Mexican, spick and span. I mean, I could go on and on. And like you, Logic, I was told that I would never, My high school guidance counselor said, "You're lucky if you make it to Lincoln Tech." For those who don't know what Lincoln Technical Institute is, it's a place where you go, and I think at the time they were doing. I think if you wanted to become like an auto mechanic or something like that, or some kind of like HVAC tech, that's where you go. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those professions, but that's what I was told. That's what I was told. So look, I do get why people are complaining about it, because they're bigots.
and Apex, I mean, I guess I also take umbrage to your statement. You don't get why people are complaining about it. I do get why people are complaining about it, because I was making those complaints when this content wasn't being created. That's a thing that we seem to enjoy walking right past, right? I was complaining when all of the content was all white characters, where black characters were only. I mean, one of the most difficult things for me to deal with was how people, and white kids that I went to school with would love, these action movies or whatever, where the black person being represented like was the muscle, or wasn't intelligent, or was always an also ran. Like, I get it. I understand why you're complaining, because maybe your race or orientation isn't being pushed to the front. And I'm sympathetic for that. Wait, yes, I'm sympathetic. Wait.
I'm not sympathetic. No, I'm not sympathetic, because look, wait. Not every character has to be white. Not every fucking character needs to be heterosexual. I mean, this is fucking 2023. Okay, like white people are not the only people that live on planet Earth. White Christian males are not the only people that live on planet Earth. Heterosexual couples are not the only people that live on planet Earth.
Yeah, I was about to walk that back. I was about to say I'm empathetic.
I'm not yelling at you, Game Logic. I'm just saying, like,
no.
like Apex. I 125% disagree with you. Like, you don't have any problems with gay people. I got close relatives that are gay. The issue with Aloy is a character with no soul through the first and second game. Why can't they build out her character? Would you be saying this if they made her heterosexual? Probably not, I would imagine. Why does it matter if they gave her a love interest in the second game? It's a progression of the character. It's growth of a character. You never seen, like, you've never read a book? You've never watched Star Wars and see how Luke progresses as a character? I mean, like, I don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic.
No, I was going to say my only thing I was trying to get my cliche saying that I always use right, but I got it backwards. Maybe I haven't had enough coffee. I was about to say I'm empathetic, meaning I get where you're coming from because I was in that same position, but I'm not sympathetic. So, yeah, no, I mean, totally agree with you.
Okay, Slow-Mo, you need to leave Aloy alone. Slow-Mo's always like she's boring. She's a boring character. Slow-Mo doesn't like her dialogue. Look, man, she was cloned off a scientist, man. What scientists have big personalities, man?
Hey, I agree, Slow-Mo. They should kill off Master Chief too.
They should kill off Master Chief. But that's my thing. It's like people like the people that are coming out here and the real ugly part again. And I said this earlier. Logic was the console warring over this. The fact that someone fucking came into my thread because I called out Pacini for what was a vile, disgusting tweet, and was like, "Oh, but so and so from PlayStation community said and you didn't see anything, BRAP." Be a fucking human. Like, this is what you're doing over a plastic box with wires. Like, this is what you're doing. It's disgusting. It was such a, I'm telling you, Logic, it was such a low point, man. Like, just when I think, like, I feel like Al Pacino in The Godfather 3, like, just when I think, they bring me back in, whatever he says, but it was such a low point. Like, when I think things can't possibly get worse, they get worse. They get worse. And this was just vile. And again, if you haven't watched Oh No, It's Alex video about this, You read the comments in his comment section. I mean, people were calling him all types of names, unsubscribing. People were calling him a liberal. Like, come on. This is ridiculous. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Logic. I interrupted, man.
And just a couple of comments. So Alex Berg say, how is it inclusive to tell people they're not welcome? I'm not sure I understand that comment. So if you can expand upon it, and then Boycott Activist says, I'm starting to think by your testimonials that blacks and Hispanic are underrepresented more than LGBT. I don't think that's anything that we've ever claimed. I'm just trying to represent a real world example based on my own experience. I can't speak to the LGBT experience, so I think that would be offensive for me to try to do so. I'm trying to convey the analog or the parallel to, these matters of talking about races, classes, sexual orientation, or whatever that you don't want to include in an artistic medium based on, I'm glad somebody brought up agenda, based on the Xbox agenda.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like you said, Game Logic is her that tweet is counter to what Microsoft, what their I think what you said, what Xbox actively promotes. Well,
right. I mean,
from a values perspective,
and this is my this is my problem. And if there are Xbox fans in here, and I hope you are, as an Xbox fan, this is my problem. Is the people that are consistently raised up as heroes and representatives of the Xbox community is disgusting. You look at the things that Xbox does. Xbox constantly talks about inclusiveness. They constantly talk about accessibility. They constantly talk about wanting everyone to game together. And I don't personally think that they don't do a great job of this on Xbox Live. The greatest tool that they gave to Xbox Live was the party system so that you didn't have to listen to all the toxicity. But the problem I have is still the brand is representative of inclusiveness and diversity. And for someone who is raised up at the top of the pyramid of Xbox fandom on Twitter to put out something that is absolutely 180 degrees the opposite of that, and for her to be propped up as kind of the online leader of the community, I don't understand that. I don't understand all of the cheerleading of Lulu Chang Messervy, right, with her background. I do not understand and this is not a political statement of my own alignment. This is a statement of not checking the background of people who are speaking on behalf of your console. I don't understand the cheerleading of the senators who questioned Chairman Khan, who voted to overturn the results of the 2020 election, say that they are completely against any notion of background checks for gun purchases, say that the ethnicity laws that are on the books will remove the rights of other American citizens. I don't get that. And the reason I bring that up, it's not because I'm saying that those things are wrong for everyone. If you agree with those things, that's fine. What I'm calling out is the hypocrisy of the people who I know are not aligned to those values and are not aligned to those ethics, but yet because those senators or representatives spoke up on behalf of the merger, cheerleaded and propped them up and made them heroes. That's the thing that bothers me. What bothers me is people who sacrifice their ethics, hypocritically tuck their values behind the green curtain, right, in while making a plastic box and a brand their priority. That's the thing that I have a problem with.
And again, that is fucking weird. Because it's a plastic box. That's the part that kills me. And when you say that they are backing senators or whatever the case is, are you saying those senators' value systems or values don't align with Microsoft's values for the Xbox platform? Am I understand that correctly?
I mean, that too, or align with the ethics and values of the people who are propping them up.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a great point. And there was a thread about I guess the FTC or something, or I guess a Republican congressman who was questioning Lena Khan, and I was watching, or not watching, but I was reading some of the it was the there was a Wall Street Journal op-ed on that about Lena Khan and the FTC, and I was reading some of the responses on the Twitter thread of that op-ed, and man, let me tell you, some of the stuff, man, wow. Some of the racist, xenophobic commentary about Lena Khan, and it's all centered around this her and the FTC trying to block this ABK deal. For crying out loud! Again, like where's the? It's amazing, like you said, Logic. It's amazing to me that people are willing to just not be good to just not be good humans over a plastic box. Like, you don't have to agree. Fine. You could say, you know what? I don't agree with the FTC. I don't think they have a case. That's fine. But when you take it that extra step, and I saw people say, I bet she's not American. I bet she was born in India. She's this, she's that. A lot of that commentary was in that thread, and I was like, and I was reading it, and I'm just shaking my head, all over a plastic box. Eric 83, the $2 super chat says, "We live in whataboutism BS." Go ahead.
Of course, what we don't know, Eric, is are you saying we are doing the whataboutism, or are you saying they are doing the whataboutism?
Yeah, I need some more coffee, by the way, Logic. It's a little bit too early to have this type of conversation.
Yeah.
More coffee, man.
So let me go back to the keeping the same energy thing, because like you said, I wrote about that I think last night. Look, that to me is a deflection and a distraction round. It's a smoke screen because you don't want to talk about the issues. And here's my stance, and the stance goes on Twitter, and it's going to go on this show and in this chat as well. Unless you have watched every single episode of this show that I've been on, every single episode of my show that I've been on, read every blog post that I've ever posted, and every Twitter post that I've ever posted, please don't come at me with the keep the same energy thing. You don't know. If you're going to visit intentions on my character, this is another problem that I have with the thing that we do on Twitter, which goes back to the people who posted the thing. Instead of keeping to the issues at hand and actually talking about it based on the facts, right? Based on the foundational evidence and the tangible things that are actually presentable and that people can see, what we try to do is we try and circle around and outflank the person and talk about their character. I'm not having a discussion with anyone else about my character, right? People don't know me. You don't know my entire background. You don't know my entire history. Nor am I going to, when we do this thing where we criticize Xbox or we criticize PlayStation, people say that, you're a fanboy or you didn't talk about this, that. Like, look, I've been following Microsoft and Xbox for 23 years. I have written extensively about them. I've written for published and paid websites, including VentureBeat, Notebook Check, UMPC Portal. I am not going to, every time I criticize Xbox or PlayStation, I am not going to walk through 23 years of history of everything that I've said positively about that brand or negatively about that brand. If you have a problem with the point that I'm expressing, then you can keep to the facts, and I'll address those. Like, it's the silliest form of raising a deflector shield because you don't want to talk about the issues at hand. And I just really don't get it.
That's exactly what it is. It's the ultimate form of deflection. It's like, when I don't have anything smart to say, I'm just going to pull this card.
Right. Bender Strings, you raise a really good question. Honest question to you guys. Do you see race swapping established characters as lazy and tokenizing? Because I do. It feels like they're trying to win social justice points without earning it. And you can, here's a spear that you can launch at me. I don't, and that's because I will admit my bias is that I'm personally invested in seeing, quite frankly, the evolution of mankind and the evolution of society to include those groups to the point where the behavior outside of arts and entertainment calms the hell down, right? Because I'm interested in a future where you know, my kids or the next generation coming up looks at things as normal. And that's not only just a social thing, that's just life in general, right? We talk on this show about, for instance, we talk on this show about the fact that, you know, our generation, right, or people just shortly behind us in years say, I hate cloud gaming and we want stuff on hardware and yada, yada. And I constantly say, you know, you need to understand that the people 20 years behind you aren't bothered by that. That's natural and native for them. And so in the work that I've done with a lot of government organizations on social issues and corporate organizations on social issues, for instance, I worked in Canada for a while where the bathrooms were co-ed. And so after a few weeks, and like the first time I walked in and I was like, whoa. But after a few weeks of that being my life, I was like, okay, this is no biggie, right? The Canadians shrug it off. It's not a big deal. And my point is that, you know, when women were incorporated into the military, which is still an ongoing problem and hasn't settled down, but my point is that, you know, when blacks were included in the military, society evolves. Eventually we hit points where those things become native and natural. So I quite honestly, my bias is I don't mind them being race swapped if that pushes the evolution of mankind and society forward. Now, on your comment about about lazy writing, I don't inherently disagree, but I will say there are tons of things that I call out as lazy writing, right? The Flash incorporating time travel in season 1 and then leaning on time travel for every season after that, I felt was lazy. I felt like, you know, the CW, you know, Berlanti should have waited till, you know, season 2 or 3 to incorporate time travel. There are constantly things like I don't completely agree with the notion of the Mary Sue-ization of Rey in Star Wars, but I felt a lot of things in the Star Wars, you know, post 3 chapters were lazy. I feel like anytime that there's a MacGuffin or a hand wave, that's always lazy, right? But, you know, but those things happen, and I can't call out. I think my point is that there are tons of things that are lazy in writing and that people lean on, and I don't necessarily call that out like every single time. So with the race swapping, in my opinion, I accept it as a necessary evil, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, that's a great point, Logic. Apex Predator says, but aren't you guys propping up your audience? Wait, he says, but aren't you guys propping up your audience up? Anybody who has an audience will prop up their audience. It's hypocritical.
Well, help me out, Apex Predator. Who do you think our audience is? I don't understand if you're talking about a demographic or.
I mean, look, we're not a platform centric show. We are a gaming show. Our audience, I'm assuming, are those who play video games because that's why they come here, to listen to conversation around video games. So I don't know, you know. Yeah. That's a great question, Logic. Who do you think our audience is then? Who are we propping up? Michael Kelly, it is bigotry. It is. Michael Kelly says it's not bigotry. People are just sick of this and everything nowadays. Nearly every other character in Horizon Forbidden West are gay. It's unrealistic. What? Again, it's a fictional piece of work. Why do you have an issue with the fictional piece of work and gay characters being represented? Like, why is that unrealistic? Why does it matter? I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you? And I don't like. I mean, like, it's not necessarily unrealistic at all. Actually, if you think about it. Unless you live in a closet, Michael. If you haven't walked outside, if you're not paying attention to 2023.
Yeah, and I am going to lean on a huge whataboutism here because it's one that I just believe in. Look, look, comic book fans, superhero movie fans, gamers, like they do this all the time, right?
And by the way, not all the characters are gay in Horizon Forbidden West. So that's hyperbolic. First of all, and even if they were, so what?
Right. Because who's to say that in that world that's not natural?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a fictional piece of work. Like if in that world, if that society had evolved where that's the case, who cares? If it bothers you, Michael, don't play the fucking game. Don't play the game.
Right. And that's kind of my point, right? We have zero problem with the fact that a rich billionaire dresses as
hold on. I'm sorry. So Michael Kelly, you say it's just overdone. Okay. Well, up until this point, every game that's had romantic interest has been heterosexual. That's not overdone? Are you out there, Michael, saying, well, you know what? There's too many heterosexual people here. That's overdone. It's in every game. Does it get tiresome, Michael, when you see heterosexual couples having romantic interests played out in video games? You do have a problem because you're talking about it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Logic. Go ahead.
No, no problem. I think my thing is, we have no problem with the fact that a 7 or 11-year-old or whatever who had his parents murdered in a back alley after coming out of an opera grows up to dress up as a bat and fight crime. And that's realistic and acceptable. But then we have a problem with representation, which is, at this point, as you said, BRAP, in 2023, natural. We have a problem with that. And that's just to me, that's kind of ridiculous, particularly, and again, like I say, in consumption of an artistic medium, which, as someone mentioned, is about escapism. So I don't understand why we hang rules on some things that we find it like. This is my overall problem. Let me go back to the artistic thing. This is my overall problem. If you're not interested in an artistic medium making you uncomfortable, then I don't understand why you consume artistic mediums. If you don't understand artistic mediums that force you to think and force you to look inward and force you to question your own self, like I don't get it. If you're looking for an artistic medium that's comfort food, you want to talk about something being lazy, that's lazy, in my opinion.
You mean not applying critical thoughts lazy? That was a joke, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic.
No, I mean that's great. Look, I mean it's.
I was joking, but go ahead.
It's going to seem like a softball example, but The Walking Dead. One of the things that makes me the most interested in The Walking Dead, it's not necessarily zombies, right? But it's one thing is I watched the first season of The Walking Dead before my first kid was born, and then I watched the second season.
I'm sorry, Game Logic. I'm sorry, Logic. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. I'm sorry. Let me apologize. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I need to address something in the chat. Michael, yeah. What are you doing here, buddy? No, but I'd rather just get on with enjoying games than having this propaganda all the time. I don't understand how representation of humanity is propaganda. Like Kim just said, is heterosexuality propaganda? I don't understand why how you could say that's no, you are homophobic, Michael. When you say things, it's just like in everything. It's just in everything. You're homophobic. You have an issue with it. You don't have an issue with heterosexuality, but you have an issue with homosexuality. It's homophobia. I hate to be the bearer of bad news to you, Michael, but yes, it is. It's homophobic. Because you don't have an issue when it's heterosexual couples or heterosexuality. But you do when it's homosexuality. And you've also said it's propaganda. It's not. It's not propaganda. It's a representation of humanity. And Michael, then you say just let people do what they want. If that's the case, then why are you bringing it up then? Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Logic. Go ahead, man.
No. That's the comment I don't understand. I mean, again, Michael, nobody's holding a gun to your head telling you that you have to play the game. You can choose not to play it. And if you're concerned that every game is a landmine that might have an issue that offends you, you cannot play games. I don't understand what's difficult about that. I mean, there are plenty of places that you can go to find agenda-driven identification of media. I mean, you can go to Reddit threads. You can go to, there's plenty of places you can go to on social media platforms where if you want to find content that only talks about one race or one type of sexuality or whatever, those websites are invested in identifying those things for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's, that's the other thing. Like you said, Game Logic, we talked about this behind the scenes. Like there's plenty of other content you could choose to play if you want.
Yeah. And Michael Kelly, your statement, you're wrong. I'm just going to let you know, the problem is your lack of self-awareness to understand that, first of all, this is a matter of perspective and opinion. You need to understand the way the rest of the world thinks. Maybe you're in the majority, I don't know. Maybe you're in the minority, I don't know. But the point is that at least at a minimum, the perspectives on this topic are split. So there is no such thing as right or wrong. And you need to pay attention to the way that the world is evolving. And if you don't understand that, you're just going to have a really difficult time getting through life.
He says he liked The Last of Us Part 2. He says to stop trying to label me. I don't believe you, Michael. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't.
And again, Michael, I'm not trying to label you. What I've spoken to is the things that you've put in the chat. You've put statements in the chat. I've made statements about those. If I've interpreted something incorrectly, then you're free to post your different take or your different perspective on it. But I haven't seen that right now.
All right. Bender says he thinks what he's saying is representation should be a cross section of real life entertainment right now. The representation scale seems tipped heavily in favor of the LGBTQ favor. I don't agree with that, Bender. I don't agree with that. I think I can think of 2 or 3 games, 4 games that come to mind, and there's probably more that have LGBTQ characters, and the majority of them tend to skew more heterosexual. Vast majority.
Yeah, Michael, you posted a question to the rest of the world. What's difficult for you to understand in what I said? I mean, you could post a question if you need it or flesh it out.
Yeah. Slow-mo says apparently you don't even have to pursue the girl in the DLC. Aloy can turn her down, so it's a choice. It's not a set thing. You're not forced to do or see in Horizon Forbidden West. Thank you for that, Slow-mo. All right, Game Watch, I want to move on to something because I'm on limited time here this morning. And all right. Yeah, Dante, we're not going to make comments like that. All right, I want to move on to because I do have limited time here, Logic. I've got probably another 15 minutes or so. Unless there's anything else you want to address in the chat.
Nope, I think we covered it.
All right. Well. All right. So what do we? So according to Jeff Grubb, on his recent Game Mesh show, Jeff Grubb mentioned that. Well, one, I know you kind of talked about this on Twitter quite a bit, Logic. That he had mentioned that Hi-Fi Rush had underperformed in terms of sales figure. At least that's what he heard. And also that that leadership isn't happy with the performance of the Xbox currently. So let's talk about the Hi-Fi Rush thing, because Aaron Greenberg did come out and say no, Hi-Fi Rush was successful. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he did come out and kind of clarify things. But you did talk about this big Game Logic, and for those who didn't see the tweet that you put out there, what's your take on the whole Hi-Fi thing? And then Grubb reporting that leadership's not happy with the performance of Xbox currently.
Yeah, my point was, as it is with a lot of the things, or I guess probably 90% of the things that come out of the gaming community, it's a singular data point. It was mentioned without context. Again, Jeff Grubb came out later and further fleshed out, what he said or what he meant. And it was in my opinion, kind of the typical thing of the, singular data point comes out, maybe is a negative indicator, and it's the finger pointing and, backslapping that happens on the playground or in the hallway as you push the nerdy kid into the locker that, see, Game Pass is bad, you need to sell your games. And I just did a long thread that talked about how overly that was, and how, we shouldn't be taking singular data points and extrapolating them and running them, 150 miles out to sea and saying that's an indictment against the entire business model. Specifically what I talked about is, it was the mention that it didn't sell well, and Greeny came out and said something which I didn't take Greeny's statement and point to it as proof of my point, because that would have been hypocritical. Like I always say, Greeny's the marketing guy. And so, first of all, I don't take anything that he says as credible when he talks about technical issues or technical matters, and anything else about sales and financial data I take with a grain of salt. But my point was, it was, Grubb mentioned it didn't sell well, and my point was, well, I don't know what that means in terms of Microsoft KPIs, in terms of how Microsoft views it, in terms of how Microsoft looks at first-party games that it's made an internal investment on in Game Pass, which definitely, at least at its outset, was a loss leader type of strategy, and a market share grab.
Real quick, let me just read what Grubb tweeted out. He said, "Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for us and our players in all key measurements and expectations. We wouldn't be happier with what the team. We couldn't be happier." I said, "Would it? I need more coffee. We couldn't be happier with what the team at Tango Gameworks delivered with this surprise release."
Right, and my whole thing is, look, and I think I don't always agree with what Everborn says, but I have to concur with him, and I've said this before myself too. We keep trying to use these, I would even contend antiquated metrics and measures of performance, measures of effectiveness, and overlay them on a new business model. I've done lots of software as a service work in business modeling, been responsible as a P&L leader for things that, I've sold as software as a service, and the metrics are definitely different. You don't look at them as the same. And in fact, what I've been talking about the last couple of days is really comparing those things directly, as you're really comparing apples and oranges. And that's not the way businesses accrue and recognize revenue. That's not the way they handle depreciation. It's not the way that they handle working those capital expenses off of their books. So you can't really look at that and point at that and say, Game Pass bad. The other thing I mentioned is this is a rhythm-based combat game. And some people came at me and said, well, rhythm games sell well, combat games sell well. Yes, but I said rhythm-based combat game, and those games don't sell gangbusters. In fact, the only one that I can really remember off the top of my head in recent history was Metal Singer on PC. I can't remember. I think it came to consoles as well. But, I mentioned when this game dropped itself, look, I love combat games, but the rhythm element to me is a bother. Like, I don't feel like I already have to perform in a combat game. I don't want, to be foisted with the responsibility of doing it in time to some drum beat. Now, that was my impression of the game, not having played it, which I'm allowed to have an impression of a game and decide whether or not I want to play it at all or not. When I get around to playing it, I may have a different opinion, but just as a face value proposition, it didn't come across as something that I wanted to engage in. And that is going to be the perspective of a lot of other gamers on the market. So pointing to this and saying, oh, well, it didn't sell well. I'm sure Pentiment didn't sell well from that perspective, right? This is a niche game, and trying to point at it and say it's a reason and a proof point of why Game Pass is a bad business model, I think is really a reach.
Yeah, that's a great point, Logic. And I wouldn't have expected the sales of what's it called? Hi-Fi Rush to be, I mean, considering like the release window, I mean, no marketing, stealth drop, and like you said, it's a rhythm. It's a rhythm game. I know somebody yet. Oh, what about Guitar Hero? It's a little bit different. But
yeah, I mean, that's my point. And I'm hoping this comes across. Guitar Hero is not a rhythm-based combat game. It's a rhythm game. Guitar Hero sold well. Beat Saber has sold well, right? And it's a rhythm-based combat game, not like combat games. It's not God of War Ragnarok. It's not Spider-Man. It's not Gears of War, right? Yeah. It's a completely different subgenre that's very niche.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I wouldn't have expected the game to like sell like millions and millions, right? Like it was a stealth launch. Didn't have any marketing really behind it. Because it being a stealth launch, and it's a rhythm-based combat game. I mean, those games are going to appeal to a smaller segment of the of gamers. But to your point about Aaron Greenberg, I kind of and I said this. I said, I know we talked about this before. I said, I sometimes I wish Microsoft would just take the route of Sony and Nintendo, and when these things come out, just keep your mouth shut, just keep your head down. Keep working on delivering great content, and that's it. You notice that when the story ran with the PSVR 2s not meeting sales expectations or whatever the case was by that analyst, and that Sony Mini to drop the price of the PSVR 2. I mean, Sony didn't even reply. They didn't even reply. They didn't even address the comment or the news story. But I also, when Greeny does tweet out things, I kind of take it a little bit with a grain of salt. He is the marketing guy, and his job is to market and put make to present Xbox in a very positive light. So I'm not saying he's lying. I'm sure he's got more insight into this than we do. But again, he's the marketing guy. I take it with a grain of salt. So the other thing too, there was also part of that conversation on the Games Mess podcast with Jeff Grubb and Mike Minotti, where they talk about the performance of Hi-Fi Rush, but also that leadership's not happy with the performance of the Xbox. And that's not to say, I did see some people saying, oh, well, this means Xbox, that it's over, they're going to give up on the console. No, it's not that. I think Grubb kind of, I believe he alluded to that it's not necessarily the case. It's that it's more of a recognizing that, hey, we're not happy with where the Xbox is, but this isn't a waving of the white flag like some people have made it out to be. Like you're not spending $70 billion on ABK and waving the white flag all of a sudden, right? I think this is more of a look. If you look at the sales numbers recently, they're down. I think Benji Sales put out some statistics. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, where he showed PlayStation 5 console sales year over year being up, and Xbox Series console sales year over year being down. And you don't want to be trending down at this point in the console lifecycle generation. I know some people were like, well, BRAP, what about Nintendo Switch? Is trending down too. I understand that, but Nintendo Switch also is, year 6 into its life cycle now? Is it been 6 years? It's 2017, right?
Yeah, but the flashlight I want to shine on that is those are year over year quarterly comparisons. So that is a comparison to how well they did last quarter. This is the quarter after the holiday season, where typically consumer spending, for particularly luxury brand products, typically goes down. So when I look at I look at annual financials, because that's what people's bonuses get paid on. That's the scoreboard. And so I didn't put a lot of stock in quarterly results. My own comment about Microsoft, being unhappy about Xbox performance, I would freaking hope so. Like, they should be unhappy, and I hope that causes them to do something about it. So I think ascribing a lot of that to oh my God, London Bridge is falling down, they're going to pull out of the gaming market. No, but I think if you look at quarterly results, you look at trends overall in the generation. Look, a head coach should be unhappy with his team when he loses. I don't know what head coach goes to his team and says, "Hey, great job losing that game."
Yeah, hey guys, hey, we're down 42-0, but hey, how about that Gatorade? It's great today. No, you're absolutely right, Logic. Go ahead, Van.
No. That's all I was going to say on it.
Yeah, no, exactly. You would, and that's why I was kind of shaking my head when I was reading some of the doom and gloom stuff. I'm like, no, like Microsoft isn't leaving the console space. They're not abandoning the Xbox. They're not waving the white flag. Again, you don't spend $70 billion just to bow out of the console space right away. But what I will say is I do have some concern, Logic, of people, because I did see this. The console warriors, God bless them. People, wanting Microsoft to just quit and get out of the race. I'm like, I don't want that. I want to see a healthy Microsoft compete. I think competition is good for the market. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and let me. I know we're compressing time, but let me draw out the scenario a little bit more, because we constantly get this, right? And I fail to understand why people don't understand it. 3 console competitors on the market, 1 goes away, Xbox gets driven out of the market. 2 console competitors left on the market. Now, with freer reign to raise prices, choice gets limited, options become more scarce. Bad for everyone. I don't understand why people want that future.
I don't understand either. I want, and this is why I'm critical of Xbox too, because I want them to do better. I want them to compete, because I don't want a situation, I don't want a scenario where it's like, now, where there was 3, now there's 2, for the reasons you just mentioned, Game Logic. And nobody should want that. Like you said, nobody should want that.
So my problem, Bitrate and Alex Berwick, when you mention that's a short range conclusion to come to. What I would challenge you on is, no one has successfully entered the console platform market since Microsoft came onto the scene. That would seem to me to be an indicator that no one is going to be able to, except for someone with the massive financial resources of one of the big 5. You look at what went on in the console gaming industry before Microsoft came on the scene. Sega went out, Atari went out. All of those alt consoles that were in like the mid 80s to mid 90s who tried to make a go of it, out. 3DO, CDI, TurboGrafx. If people should understand that those are indicators that you're not going to making a go as a console platform in this day and age is not really feasible to me, unless you're somebody with massive resources. And I don't know that you're going to convince Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Google has already been dissuaded to try and get in that pond. I don't know that you're going to convince them to do so. Apple could definitely do it. They choose not to. They're not interested in it.
Yeah, Apple's not interested, and they're happy printing money with Apple Arcade right now.
Yeah, Alex, the problem is your comment. Sony came in and changed the established players. Microsoft came in. The difference, Alex, is Sony came in because they had been paid by Nintendo to do the R&D for, I don't know, call it 50% of the PlayStation, because they were developing the optical drive for the next Nintendo platform. Nintendo said, then we don't want it. Sony did not have to dig into their own pockets to make the R&D investment at 100% for the PlayStation. It was a smaller leap for them. Microsoft was able to come in, again, because they had vast financial resources and they can afford to take losses as they try and prop up a new business venture. When you say other companies could come in, I just named the other 4 companies that could come in, one of which is out of the picture. So yes, could other companies come in? Yes, there are 3 other companies that come in. One of them has shown that they're disinterested. Apple and Google are already in the top 10 companies that make revenue from gaming, and they don't have a gaming console. So the question would be, why would they need to? So
some just said goodbye, unsubscribed. He said, I guess Google doesn't exist. We just addressed Google. They just tried to get into the video game market with Stadia. And now you want to be a big baby and unsubscribe because what? We're not agreeing with you? That's fine. Feel free to unsubscribe. I don't care. I'm like, that's the most childish thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, no, I think I covered it all.
I mean, look, we just mentioned the companies. Google just tried it and they left. They said, no, thank you. We're not doing this anymore. Oh my God. I've never seen a childish reaction like that before in our chat. Goodbye, unsubscribed.
Yeah, not only that, but you concurred with my point. My point was the only people who could get in are companies that are corporations that are at that scale.
Yeah. Alex says, what about companies we don't know about? A Chinese company could partner with Tencent. I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, that's a possibility. But why haven't they haven't done it yet, though?
Right. And I would take that off the table, Alex, but my point is that I'm saying that it's highly unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, I also think if that was the case, they may have done it, or they would have done it by now, maybe.
Well, then the other thing is you look at Tencent's strategy. Tencent has not necessarily acquired a lot of people. They've made a lot of investments to assert a shareholder position in companies. And the reason they're doing that is because they are mitigating risk.
Yeah.
They are going for the biggest grab that they can make without fully leaning into it and committing themselves to a point where they would be at risk. Yeah. If those companies go south or things go bad, they just sell their shares.
Yeah. And it's interesting. What we saw in the 80s and, mid to late 90s, we saw other entrants into the console space. But since then, since post, Sega leaving the console space, the Xbox is the only one to come into the actual traditional console market and release a new console. No one else has tried it. Atari did kind of its retro, Atari recently. But I mean, like, no one's really has entered that space since. It's been 20 something years, right?
Right. I mean, Alex Berger, say if Microsoft steps back, it leaves space. You're absolutely right. But my point is that space being occupied by somebody that tries to prop up a new console platform, highly unlikely. What is almost guaranteed to happen, almost unquestionably, is that Sony and Nintendo will have greater reign to raise prices because there are fewer competitors in the market. If you don't understand that, look at the GPU market. Look at where the GPU market was in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there were multiple vendors competing.
I stand corrected.
And now it's just NVIDIA and AMD.
I stand corrected. Z Black Rider, right? Soldier Boy did try to release a console. Thank you for that, Z Black Rider.
I mean,
he actually did.
And Atari released the VCS and Ouija, was it Ouija or whatever? The little cube.
Ouija? Yeah.
Ouija, something, whatever, right? I mean, yeah. And like we said, Google tried to release Stadia, and all those things have toppled over and failed.
Yep. Yeah, I don't disagree with Alex. It would definitely leave a space, but oh man, I tell you, I don't know if anyone would step in, man.
Well, and my thing is that the space would definitely look, the elasticity of the market. My point is that the dynamics of the market will lead to higher prices, scarcity, lesser competition. That will be an immediate impact that is unquestionable. The laws of economics dictate that will happen. The likelihood that another competitor could come into the market, that is a smaller percentage chance.
Yeah. So
don't expect that to be the savior of lower prices.
Yeah, Logic isn't saying, Alex, that there's zero chance of that happening. He's just saying that it's very unlikely that would happen.
And it will take time.
Yeah.
It's not like Microsoft will go away and there'll be a new console on the market like the day after.
Yeah, and that the publishers are going to support that console all of a sudden. That console is going to have great market penetration where it would make sense for those publishers to support that platform. Because you remember, even when the Xbox console came out, the original Xbox 20-something years ago, there were publishers who still weren't supporting that. Big publishers, EA being one of them, who weren't supporting that platform.
That's my point about resources, right? To prop that console up. We love to talk about Sony money hatting. Microsoft had to go around and money hat a lot of publishers in order to get them in the pool. And you can't do that unless you have huge resources.
And Microsoft actually had some inroads in gaming anyway, previous to that, with PC gaming.
Right.
So, I mean, when you think about like the fact that they could bring some of the PC games over, that they were, because they had, I forget what their, I remember Ed Freeze talking about it, like them having some of the PC games or having experience in publishing PC games, and then, bringing those ports over to the Xbox. But you're right, they did have to go out and money hat games, but they had the money to do it though. That's the thing.
Exactly.
So even if you do release a console right now, are you going to have the backing of the big publishers like the EAs, the Take-Twos? Because you need them. I mean, Microsoft needed them and didn't have them right away. You're going to need support of the publishers to put games that are going to attract players to that platform. And you're going to need that killer app. I mean, the one thing that really put Microsoft or the Xbox on the map was what? Was Halo.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, and one thing you mentioned, right? It's not only about resources but relationships, right? And those are things that Microsoft has in droves because of how broad their portfolio is, how closely they have to work with other technical partners, particularly on the West Coast. Those are things that they can leverage, right? Sarah Bond, who is not a software developer, was key in brokering the deal for Sega, right? For them to put a lot of their workloads and go to a cloud native Azure platform. That's something that Sarah was able to do because Sarah has a lot of those relationships, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Logic. Sorry, man, I'm reading the chat here. Yeah, Alex says, I don't think Xbox console can survive as it is. Do you mean like the way they're selling? I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out one caveat, right? Because sometimes people get on us for dogging Xbox, and I think, again, as we mentioned on Twitter, I think people run away with a lot of stuff and walk by other, factual points of evidence. Xbox isn't, as I say too many times, Xbox is in third place in install base. They're in second place in revenue, right? So they're not just going to drop out of their $16 billion revenue earning point, right, in a year or out of nowhere. Again, if there is a downfall of Xbox, it's going to take a very long time. And as I most often contend, these multi-trillion-dollar companies get out of businesses when they decide to, not because somebody else decides to. Despite the conspiracy theory that runs around, Microsoft did not run Google Stadia out of business. Google pulled the plug on Stadia because Google decided that that wasn't a way that they wanted to spend their internal money.
Yeah, that's a great point, Logic. Yeah, that's a great point. And Z Black Rider corrects you, says first in monthly active users as well.
That is true. I look, I'm not going to hang my hat on that point just yet. I get it because PlayStation players are playing Microsoft games. That means Microsoft is first in MAU. That seems a tenuous thread to hold on to, but maybe it'll prove out to be, financially or business significant.
Yeah. All right, Logic. Look, I do need to wrap up this rant. I got to get some more coffee, man. I got to get some more coffee. I'm dragging this morning. I didn't get much sleep last night, but BRAP has UK connections. Needed a mod in here. What? I don't know what you mean by that bit rate.
Maybe he's nominating himself to be a mod.
Oh, I don't know. Are you trying to nominate? Because we have Ice Queen Gaming. I believe Ice Queen Gaming is in the UK. Maybe that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, Alex, and there are other, right? I mean, so there are blended financial metrics that look at MAU and look at how much money you're making, right? And so that becomes money per monthly active user, and that means that Xbox's is overall lower. But to be quite honest, I have not educated myself fully on what the impact of, I think is that ARPU, on what those impacts necessarily are, or what that means about the financial health of a gaming going concern. That's something we definitely need to pull Falky into.
Yeah. By the way, Logic, I think we should know something this week from the CMA regarding the ABK deal. Hopefully they say yes, we all can move on with our lives.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because if they approve it, then everybody will be doing victory laps, despite the fact that and some of us will be saying, well, the EC and the FTC still have to rule, which to me is the factual reality of the case. But I know people will be cheerleading and doing victory laps because one of the three, makes a decision if they make it on time.
Yeah, well, look, I'm just looking forward to this deal being closed, being over and done with, so we can finally move on. So, but anyhow. Look, Logic, hey, thanks for jumping on, man. I really appreciate it, as always. It's great ranting with you. Hopefully we can hop on some Halo Infinite maybe today, maybe tonight. Possibly, maybe. No pressure.
I think I'm going back to Wolong, and if I get popped off Wolong because I can't progress, then I think I'm playing Outriders.
Oh, nice. Okay. I haven't played Outriders in a while. It's I think when I haven't played it in quite some time.
Yeah, I played it on Xbox via Game Pass, but I think I'm going to since then I have decided that I'm just not playing shooters on console anymore. I think I've just been fooling myself. I bought into the Halo dream of like a shooter on console finally being viable back in like 2002. But most recently I just said, I've been living in that falsity for 20 something years, and I need to be true to myself and go play all my shooters on PC.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I mean, that's where I play Halo on PC. It's the best play to play. PC is the best place to experience Xbox. I've been saying that for years now. So
yes,
if you want the definitive version of Starfield, PC.
True, but I have realized I need to bite the bullet and upgrade all my graphics cards to 12 gigabyte cards. So that's going to be some 2023 pain.
Woo! I hear that.
Anybody who doesn't listen to Broken Silicon should go listen to Tom's discussion with Chris Ray, who is a visual effects designer and developer at Infinity Ward. He talked a lot about development and kind of things that are driving dynamics in that space now, and where those things are converging around hardware. That gets into a little bit about. That gets into a little bit about the PlayStation and Xbox. You have to kind of perk your ears up and listen to where those things come out. But it's a really great discussion. Again, as I will do some propaganda now. As I constantly say, you guys who listen to a lot of these YouTube podcasts who profess that they know what they're talking about for hardware and don't know jack, you need to stop listening to that and actually listen to professional engineers and stuff who talk about hardware. Moore's Law, very true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I agree with you, Game Logic. I've been saying that for years. Even when rest in peace, Optimus Code, when he was, we'd have him on the show, we would say, look, when Optimus Code is talking about software development, please listen to what he's saying. He worked in the game industry, was a software engineer, had been, been around, engineering for a very long time. But people would, stub their nose and go listen to certain podcasters that would hear things and talk about those things and think because they tinker with GPUs and computers that they know about software development, engineering, and the like. So, but I better not say much more, Game Logic, because someone may test me on what software development lifecycle means.
Right. I do want to make one more comment. So Jago6 in the room, we won't have time to discuss it. You're welcome to leave a comment, but you say they will add hundreds of millions more people to Game Pass with ABK under Microsoft. Just let me know where those hundreds of millions of people coming to Game Pass will come from. With like 150 million or so people on PlayStation, 100 million, a little bit above 110 million or so on Nintendo, on the Switch, 60 to 80 million on Xbox, and I forget what the PC gamer number is, maybe like 125 million. I just don't understand. Like, so is everybody in the gaming space switching over to Game Pass when Microsoft requires Activision? I'm not sure where you get the 100 of millions projection from.
Django, do you listen to Xbox podcast? Because I feel like that's a talking point that I would hear on an Xbox centric podcast where they have these wild dreams and manifestations in their minds about like what this deal is going to do for Microsoft. Because hundreds of millions is like what like where? Mobile? Like I mean, does ABK have hundreds of millions of people right now engaged in its games? Like David Mack saying mobile and cloud. Everyone's saying mobile. I mean,
my point is, I think more people will onboard to Game Pass, but I don't think it's anywhere near hundreds of millions of more people. I think that's ridiculously hyperbolic. Scott.
Look, Candy Crush has 250 million players, but again, that's a free to play game. I mean, is Microsoft going to force those people all this? All right, you know what, Charles Hawk, you do this every time, so you're gone.
Yeah, and Scott, you're correct. When I say 12 gigabytes, I really mean 12 gigabytes or above. I'm right now. I'm looking at a 4090, which is a 24 gigabyte card, I believe.
Yeah, he's saying AB King has tons of users. Okay, so you're saying that all those users from AB King are just going to suddenly decide to sign up and pay money for Game Pass? and that it's going to equal to hundreds of millions? Because
Well,
Candy
but my
Crush
thing
is
is-
free to play right now, and
Well,
that's
but
what
my thing
that's where majority of the gamers are on mobile for ABK King, that particular game, but it's free to play. They don't need to onboard on the Game Pass to play that game.
Right, and when you say ABK has tons of users, my point is a lot of those users are already on Game Pass, are already on Xbox. A lot of those users are on PlayStation and are not going to switch because people tend to stay anchored to ecosystems. The percentage of changeover is very small, and it typically happens at generational points. So, where you're going to see most of those users switch over will be at the beginning of the next generation, and that's only going to be the fence riders who are agnostic to what platform they're on. But lots of people won't switch just because people like ease of use. People like the things that they're familiar with.
Yeah, I do agree with Z Black Rider. Says free to play means billions of dollars. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Candy Crush, is if you look at the revenue numbers for ABK King, I think Candy Crush makes up more than half of the revenue.
The simple linear math is, look, when they acquire ABK, they're going to take the $8 or $9 billion of revenue that they make per annum, and they're going to add it to their $16 billion, and they're probably going to
Jago 6, you get real, sir. You came in here and said million. You said hundreds of millions we're going to get on Game Pass after this deal. So you get real, sir.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. Look at you guys. You can't tell us to get real, and you're out here saying, well, I think 100 millions of people are going to join Game Pass after this deal. No. The potential to join. And I'm going to channel my channel. I'm not in a good mood today, by the way. Because I didn't get any sleep. I'm going to channel, and some other things that are going on personally, but I'm going to channel my inner Optimus Code here. This is what happened when bot brain starts kicking in. Rest in peace, Optimus Code. I miss you, man. I really do miss Optimus Code. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Logic. Did I cut you off again?
Nope. That's absolutely right. The hundreds of millions of users is not even an accurate assessment of the market. The point is, yes, some people will come over, but it's not going to be anywhere near the scale of hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you about the developing markets. I get that, but I don't think that's going to equal to hundreds of millions going into Game Pass to pay for something, especially in the mobile space when the mobile tends to be free to play anyway. Which is kind of what Jago is alluding to, hundreds of millions. Like, again, hopes and dreams. I always tell the Xbox community, stop doing this. Stop overblowing things. Just let it be. Let it marinate. Let it play itself out. You guys always set the bar so high. Stop. Did I interrupt you again, Logic?
Nope. I think somebody was questioning his quote, and I just dropped it in the chat. He said hundreds of millions more people. Now, what I will say is, yes, there may be, at a stretch, let's just call it over the next few years, leading up to the next generation, hundreds of millions more people may come to the overall Xbox ecosystem. And that will be anywhere from people playing a game that is owned by King, engaging in microtransactions, maybe participating in some type of, I don't know what all the mobile subscription models are, maybe participating in a, singular game subscription model, one or two. That may happen, but it's not necessarily going to be Game Pass per se, unless Game Pass is modeled differently.
He says, "Wow, dude, you read too much into that. You said hundreds of millions of more people to Game Pass. I don't know how that's reading too much into it. I don't know." All right. Anyhow, I do need to wrap up the show, but Game Logic, man, always a pleasure. Thank you. Hopefully we can get back on some Halo Infinite on PC. I need to get back to some Halo Infinite. I haven't played Halo Infinite like in 2 weeks. I think Slomo said I gotta hit up Slomo. He was here in the live chat earlier. I think Slomo mentioned he might be trying to hop back on Halo Infinite.
I also need to get to season 3 of COD. That's the one that I'm really hurting on.
Yeah, I got to get back on a season 3 of COD as well. But yeah, anyhow,
because those seasons are shorter. Given 343i's performance, we probably have till the season 3 of Halo will probably last the rest of 2023.
That's a good point. Yeah, time is on our side with season 3 for Halo Infinite. You're not lying there. I mean, I went back and started pretty late with season 2 and finished that pretty quickly. So for Halo Infinite. But yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point, Game Logic. But look, everyone, thank you so much. Everyone in the live chat, thank you so much for listening to today's rant. And please do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. And consider, and actually subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And we'll be back on Wednesday, discuss more gaming related news and topics and all that other good stuff. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have some fun playing video games because that's what it's all about. Gaming's about having fun. Fun, F-U-N. We'll catch you next time.